Hi there, folks. This is Sam Price, and welcome to another episode of Probate Notes. We have with us today my guest, Kevin Sayles from Lawyer's Title. Thank you so much for being here today, Kevin.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Another great episode with you. Anytime talking with you, I know I'm going to get some really good, juicy stuff. So, last time we talked on our podcast about what is a title officer, but you know what? I think it's worth repeating. So, can you kind of tell us a little bit about what is title insurance? Why does someone need a title company? And what does a title rep do?
Outstanding. So title insurance, let's talk about first, what is title? Title is the ownership to your property. A lot of people think about car title. That's the pink slip that shows you own a car. Title to your property is the deed. When you buy a property, there's a deed that transfers that property into your name, and that's the title of your property. Um, Maintaining a copy of your deed is not quite as important with a property as it is with a car. You know, with a car, someone can take the deed and transfer it. They sign that document, transfer it. With a property, that deed is recorded at the county recorder's office. And so there's always a copy out there. So it's not as important to have a copy of your deed as it would be to have your car title. But the title is the ownership of the property. What title insurance is when there's a transfer, a sale, or when there's a loan being done, we're ensuring that the owner is the owner. So, for instance, when someone's buying a property, we're ensuring that John Doe, the seller, is in fact John Doe, does in fact own that property. He's not the John Doe that lives in Kentucky. He's the John Doe that lives in that property that you're buying right here in California. And we ensure the sale. So we protect against fraud. We cover you for fraud. We cover you for several other ownership rights to the property. That's what title insurance is in general. And you mentioned the rep, so I'm going to talk about two different parties. One is the title officer. The title officer is the person who actually closes a transaction. When there's a sale transaction, they work directly with escrow, directly with the lender sometimes to get the transaction closed and insured. They verify the insurability of the transaction. In other words, if John Doe owns that property and we have a grant deed from Joe Smith, we would say we have a problem here. He's not the owner of the property. So they do all of that type of verification at closing to prevent any issues because, you know, 90, probably 90 plus or 95% of what we do is preventative in nature. Now, so that's a title officer. Their job is to verify the insurability of the transaction. My job as a sales representative is to go out and get clients to use our company. But what goes with that, in my background, I do a little bit different job than what the average sales rep does, in that I help with the underwriting of a lot of my files. I help with assessing the risk. I help with gathering data and everything on our files, especially as it deals with probate, trusts, bankruptcy estates, receiverships, fiduciary transactions, power of attorney, anything where there's some sort of fiduciary party selling for the actual owner of the property. I do a lot of extra work on those transactions to make it easier for the title officer and for management to approve our transactions and get them closed. So that's my job as a sales rep as well.
Speaking of government actions on properties, sometimes there are other types of notices that are recorded against a property. One might be a notice to comply, notice of lien or pending lien, notice of toxic substance on property. Can you speak about some of these government actions?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I want to make sure I want to take a step back. You asked about title insurance in the beginning. So
Yeah.
one other thing that title insurance does is it's a point of disclosure. So, for instance, I was talking about the situation earlier where we had that lien that recorded. It was a notice of toxic substance recorded against the property by a state of California department, and that lien recorded on the property the month after the buyer bought the property, but the buyer had no knowledge of it. He never knew about it. He's owned the property for a decade now, had no knowledge that this item was on there. So now that buyer is selling the property, he doesn't even know the lien's there. So our preliminary title report, which is the report we write when we open an escrow, basically, that's a point of disclosure. It's disclosing to the buyer, here's some things that may be on the property. It could be something as simple and easy as an easement for the power lines behind the house. Or in this case, it'd be something significant like, hey, there's this lien on the property. So I'm sorry to put us in reverse, but it can be a point of disclosure to disclose that this issue is on the property.
And so this might be some type of code enforcement violation,
Yes.
or could be something where um, there's some type of condition on the property that hasn't been taken care of that they needed to take care of and they haven't. And so it
Yeah.
actually comes to some type of notification against the property. And how can that affect the title insurance?
So that will be a lien that shows up in the preliminary title report. One of the exceptions. It'll show up in the exceptions, and it'll be something that we're going to say like, we don't, you as a buyer, we don't cover you for that. We're telling you that it's there. You know it's there. So if you proceed to buy the property with it there, you can't later file a claim and say, "Oh, this is here. I didn't know about it." Right. So
Yeah.
that's the way to fix. If you were going to buy a property with institutional financing, meaning like a bank or my credit union, they will not do the loan with that on the property. So again, it goes back to where you have to buy with cash or with a hard money lender or some sort of lender that's going to work around that. Whereas your regular normal loans, they will not do a loan with those types of liens on the property.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. So,
And can I throw out a bit of information about these types of liens?
please
I
do.
always, yeah, nowadays our preliminary title reports will state what the lien is, and then there'll be a link. You can click on the link, and that will take you to a website that has a copy of the document there. I always recommend getting a copy of the document because, like for instance, a substandard lien. In most cities, when you see a substandard lien, it'll just say this: there is a substandard condition on the property. Well, what does that mean? That could be everything from a giant hole in the roof to you didn't get permits when you converted your garage to a living room to you added electrical wires without getting permit. I mean, it could be to something as simple as
The
the
weeds are too
weeds.
high. You got to mow
Exactly.
the
I was just
weeds
gonna say,
down. Yeah,
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 the weeds are 2 feet tall.
yeah.
It could be something that simple. So they don't state what the substandard condition is, but almost always, not all types of liens, but many of the liens will have the inspector's phone number. They'll have some info on there. A lot of times you call, you reach them, and they'll tell you what the lien is for.
I've had clients that come to me shortly before a sale. Just last week, the client had just hired us and we filed a petition for letters. And he goes, "Oh, hey, what are you doing about tomorrow? Tomorrow? What's tomorrow?" "Well, the foreclosure sale." "What?" "What a foreclosure sale?" And it's tomorrow, right? So we got a TRO. We got him letters of special administration. We didn't know we had to do that because he didn't tell us about the sale. And
Right.
so if we were within that 5-day period, we couldn't have gotten this postponement because we were within 5 days. So the only option at that point was a temporary restraining order, which the court granted for us, thankfully. Um, but we got confirmation in writing from the lender. And how do we confirm that there's been a postponement when we send them the listing agreement or purchase agreement?
That's a great question. Always recommend that you get it in writing. Either they put it in something in some written form that tells you the date has been postponed, and or there's the homeowners bill of rights, I think is what it was called, that passed like when Schwarzenegger was in office as governor. I think it was 2013 or something like that, and that made it so that you're supposed to have one point of contact for the foreclosure process. And I believe that's the law, the bill that passed that required the lender to keep a website and or phone ability to call and verify. So what we always want as a title company, if someone says, "Oh, the sale got postponed," we want to see like print screen the website so we can see that on the website they changed the foreclosure date, or give us an email or something in writing where they put it in writing saying we've postponed. A verbal is not good enough. I've
Yeah.
heard of, um, I've heard too many situations where they're like, "Oh yeah, we got to postpone, we're fine," and then the foreclosure happens. And in almost all of those cases, they did not get it in writing.